So when did Satan and demons go from being functionaries of God, working his will, being on his team, to being overtly evil and against God? Well, the earliest evidence we have of this is from the Book of Enoch. Now, for the American evangelicals in the room, or those just getting out of American evangelicalism, the Book of Enoch was a Jewish book written around the 3rd century BCE, and though many in the early church considered it to be canon, it ultimately didn't make the cut. So that's why it's not in Protestant Bibles. And if you've ever read the Book of Enoch, you know it is wild. Now, like the Book of Revelations, it's apocalyptic in nature. So the author has a heavenly guide as he tours through heaven and through all the various spiritual locations. And there's a bunch of those in the book. Now, the first part of the Book of Enoch is called the Book of the Watchers, because it chronicles history through the perspective of angels, or the Watchers. Now, what the Book of the Watchers does is it takes the 3 traditions relating to demons in the Old Testament that I talked about in my last video, which were distinct and separate traditions, and it combines them together. Now, one of the questions that the Book of the Watchers is trying to answer is questions of theodicy. Why is there suffering? Why is there evil? Why is there sin? And its answer is basically demons. The story basically goes like this. There's these sons of God, which are angelic creatures that basically see these women and they're like, man, they're attractive. And so they marry them and have children. These become the Nephilim. We find this in Genesis 6. But what we don't find in Genesis 6 and do find in the Book of Enoch is that, according to Enoch at least, God's kind of pissed off about that. The Book of Enoch refers to it as a defilement. It's the perspective of the author of Enoch that this mixes categories, and so that's wrong. So God sends a troop of angels to go and punish these other angels and their children, which are called the Nephilim. They're the giants. And basically these angels who married human women and their children become demons. And their whole existence is to inflict various types of bodily harm on humans, which accounts for why is there suffering in the world. And according to Ryan Stokes, who's a scholar who's written about all of this, especially innovative is this work's use of these traditions to account for the worship of false gods. First, Enoch 19:1 credits evil spirits explicitly with leading humans into sin, seducing unsuspecting humans, so that they worship demons as though these lesser beings are actually gods. In fact, these demons are none other than the imprisoned angels who sinned prior to the flood. And this, according to the Book of Enoch, is why sin exists in the world. It's these evil spirits. Now, the Book of Enoch represents a pretty significant departure from how demons are portrayed in the Old Testament. And again, it's answering the questions of theodicy. Why is there evil and suffering in the world? In the Old Testament, suffering is very often seen as a punishment from God, which presents some theological problems. And so the Book of Enoch seeks to solve those theological problems by blaming demons and not God. Also in the Old Testament, God is very often credited with making humans do sinful things, which presents kind of a theological problem that the Book of Enoch seeks to solve. It's the demons' fault. So how did demons go from being functionaries of God, working for him, with him, being on his team, to being on the opposite team, being evil? Well, the Book of Enoch is where it started. At least it's the earliest attestation of this. Now, if you're keeping up with this series, you probably know that Satan also underwent a similar transformation. When did that happen? The answer is the Book of Jubilees, which I'll cover in the next video.